Hello again from Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin, broadcasting from Rigel Studios here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is about guns, related politics, and self-defense issues. Fired Up is on my website, Fired Up with Bob Irwin, as well as the American Guns and Glory Network, YouTube, and numerous other media. If your local internet provider doesn't carry Fired Up, ask them to do that. I'm going to break just for a second here to stop my opening to explain two things that are going on today. You are hearing possibly some noise in the background because they decided to repave the parking lot at the studio while we were scheduled to broadcast. So there's going to be a little rumbling in the background, which is nothing wrong with your set. That's with the guys who are out there pushing the tar around and running over it with a steamroller. The second is just for general information. I thought it would be of interest. I got my second virus shot yesterday, and now I am theoretically immune to the virus or anybody that has it and can't transmit it but there's no real data on that. Part of the problem is no one yet got the shots 5 years ago. So they really can't tell at this point whether you need a booster every year, so forth and so on. So they're all working on that, but so far so good. And I am, at least at the moment, not symptomatic and not immune. I am immune. So there we go. Anyway, a new show is posted every Thursday around 5 p.m. Pacific time, and our audio is rebroadcast for radio listeners on Saturdays at noon on the Nevada Talk Network. You can check out KELY1230.com for a station in your part of Nevada. If you have questions or comments, send me an email to bob@firedupmail.com or leave a message on my office recorder, which is 702-257-1060. If you would like a call back, please leave your number and I'll do that. There are several hundred defensive uses of firearms each week in the United States. Rarely, truthfully, are fully covered by any news media. I always select a few for my listeners' information. Most are good shootings, some not so good, but all are educational for those of you that keep a defensive firearm at home or carry one out in public. Individual incidents are generally adjudicated under local law. So the advice given here may not apply in the area where you live. Advice from a local gun knowledgeable defense attorney is always recommended. And stories here are paraphrased for clarity by translation by me from police jargon, lawyer speak, and regional accents into more standard American English. Incidents are as reported with the names of the participants deleted. The names of the cops, lawyers, and media are generally used. First up, shortly after the last election, Everytown for Gun Safety sent out an email to subscribers stating we have the chance to elect the strongest president and vice president for gun safety in American history. Then Everytown sent this list of Kamala Harris's 7 most prominent gun control policies. I thought that was rather interesting, so I'm going to list those 7 and then we'll have some comments. Now, bear in mind, we're talking about our current vice president and probably future president, but we'll get into that toward the end. Her first of her 7 was March 1st, 2018, Harris tweeted her support for universal background checks. The U.S. has had background checks on retail gun sales since 1998, but Harris wants to expand those checks to make them universal so as to include all private sales. Her second point was on May 15th, 2019, GQ magazine reported on Harris' assault weapons ban pledge, which the magazine described as the latest piece of Harris's 2020 gun safety agenda. CNN reported that Harris' proposal would ban AR-15 style assault weapon imports because they are not, quoting them, or quoting her, suitable or readily adaptable for sporting purposes. Self-defense obviously isn't something she believes in. Third point was September 7, 2020. Breitbart News reported about Harris's mandatory government buyback of certain firearms. Her support of mandatory buybacks came about the same time that former Democratic presidential contender Beto O'Rourke was declaring his intention to confiscate AR-15s. He is now, of course, the cabinet-level gun czar in charge of eliminating firearms from private citizens. Then in April 2019, CBS News reported that Harris supports a repeal of the Protection of Lawful Firearms Act. The PLCAA was adopted in 2005 to protect gun makers from frivolous lawsuits over the criminal use of guns that were legally made and legally sold. Newsweek reported that her campaign issued a call to end this federal law that protects gun manufacturers and sellers when their weapons are misused in criminal activities. On August 15, 2020, multiple media sources reported Harris supported raising the minimum federal age for rifle purchases to 21 years. Federal age for handgun purchases is already 21, as most of you know. Those under 21 risk their lives by serving in our military, and in most jurisdictions they can consume alcohol, serve on juries, and vote, but they can't have a rifle. How about that? In February 2019, Harris voiced opposition to teachers being armed. Just over a year after the February 14, 2018 Parkland High School shooting in Florida, where the attacker circumvented the school's armed resource officer and killed 17 people, Harris tweeted, "We need to give teachers a raise, not guns." On April 22, 2019, Breitbart News reported the use of executive actions to go around Congress and secure gun control. She said, "Upon being elected, I will give the United States Congress 100 days to get their act together and have the courage to pass responsible gun safety laws, and if they fail to do it, I will take executive action." Comments on all of this. Obviously, she was planning to become president when she made that last statement, but now, in effect, she seems to be becoming that. So I'm going to add number 8 to her list. Harris has voiced her opinion multiple times to ban states from having stand your ground laws. That will severely limit intended victims' ability to use firearms if needed to defend themselves in public and even in their own homes. Kamala Harris is a heartbeat away from being president. Perhaps the 25th Amendment will be used on Joe Biden so his more radical friends can take over. I think it's possible, Joe. They're going to come after you. Everybody's agreeing that you can't put a sentence together and you have your finger on the nuclear trigger. So perhaps your own guys are going back and bite you. If I were you, I would think that's a solid thing that could happen. We're going to break for a second for a commercial from my latest book, which is available on Amazon Kindle. I'll be right back right after these words about my book. Don't go away. My latest book, Self-Defense with Firearms, Use of Force in Nevada, is now available on Amazon Kindle for $4.95. You can download it now. It contains examples of dozens of shootings and pointing a firearm cases that I personally experienced in my 24 years in law enforcement, or where I testified in court or deposition as a firearm and use of force expert. The book is about the use of firearms in defense of yourself and others in my home state of Nevada. I have appeared as an expert witness in Nevada courts dozens of times, and that experience has shown me the necessity of putting pen to paper once again. Nevada state law as printed can be misleading to those of you who read it, as it is written in legal jargon, what I usually call lawyer speak. These statutes are also bent or even broken by the courts in their everyday decisions that we generally call case law. Those are rulings that say this or that statute does not apply in a particular incident and similar cases. That causes the law you are depending on when you make a decision to use your firearm only partially or not apply at all to your actions. Relevant Nevada statute numbers are included here and there, so readers may look up current wording on the Nevada State website. Teaching firearms in 28 law enforcement academies, including cadets from 26 different Nevada agencies, personally instructing over 30,000 concealed firearm permit students and 20,000 private security officers, I've discovered a lot of commonalities in deadly force incidents. Less than 100 pages, this book offers advice that can save lives and costs of expensive defense lawyers to reduce your losses in the inevitable civil lawsuits that follow these incidents. Get a copy, learn how to avoid, prepare for, and react to life-threatening situations. The book looks just like this. Amazon Kindle, you can get it, I think, for $4.95. They'll send it out to be on your phone or you're on your computer, and you can also buy a hard copy from them for a little bit more. They print them as they get ordered. So it looks like this. The other thing I wanted to mention, if you hear some rumbling in the background, because you're joining us late and didn't get the explanation, they're repaving the parking lot around the studio, and there's trucks dumping asphalt and steamrollers running over it and so forth. So if you hear that rumbling in the background, it's not anything wrong with your TV. It is something wrong with the timing of the studio having the parking lot redone. Anyway, we're going to be now continue with the show as normal. The second story is from TulsaWorld.com. A journalist named Kelsey Schottenhauer reported on February 2nd, 2021 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. A shooting happened about 7:40 in the early evening in the 5600 block of West 3rd Street. A woman apparently shot her former boyfriend during a reported home invasion on that Tuesday evening. Deputy Justin Green said the man was hospitalized in stable condition with a gunshot wound to his chest, and the Tulsa Sheriff's Office detectives were interviewing the woman. When she called, she didn't say that she had shot the invader, Deputy Green said, but apparently she did. The woman was cut by glass, and detectives aren't sure what happened before they arrived. Deputy Green added, "It's our understanding that they were at one point in time boyfriend and girlfriend. We had a history of domestics at this same place, so we're kind of familiar with them." The names of those involved were not released Tuesday night, but the deputy said the man is in his early 30s and the woman in her mid-30s. No one else was home at the time. My comments here, one shudders to imagine what would have happened if the intended victim was not armed. These incidents take place hundreds of times each week. Filing for domestic violence restraining orders is always recommended. I understand that is not always practical. At least confide in a friend or an attorney, or so someone is aware of your situation when the investigators find your body. Otherwise, it's usually a he said, she said, and the prosecutors have few facts to use in court. Let somebody know, get a restraining order, or tell somebody. Keep a diary hidden somewhere, something. Third story, CBS 4 Denver reports February 4th, 2021 in Oak Creek, Colorado, Routt County Sheriff's Office, shooting was reported at the 218 East Highland Street. Police say a man accused of shooting 3 people at 2 different locations was shot and killed by a citizen. Investigators believe the 46-year-old male shot a male victim in the Oak Creek neighborhood on Wednesday afternoon and then drove a few blocks away. He started shooting at a mobile home park. At the first crime scene, the intended victim was struck by a bullet but not seriously injured. Minutes later, investigators got reports of shots fired at the trailer park, second incident, located at 201 Wild Hog Drive. Investigators say the same 46-year-old fired shots outside unit number 37 and then went inside. Once inside, investigators say the 46-year-old tried to shoot a male resident, but his handgun malfunctioned. The resident tackled the home invader, but the 46-year-old was able to fire off several more shots. The resident male was killed and a woman was wounded. That's when another male in the home got a gun and shot the 46-year-old, killing him. The injured woman was taken to the hospital and is expected to survive. Comments on this? Nutcase. Comments. Standard procedure is always to test fire your self-defense firearm with the ammunition that you plan to use in an emergency situation. In this incident, the criminal actor had the malfunction as his firearm jammed for some reason. I've worked more than a few cases wherein the perp had the wrong ammunition in his firearm. Most often it's 9x19 loaded in a .38 revolver or vice versa. The bore size looks right, so they put the shells in and they won't feed and everything stops. Don't be a victim. Check to make sure your stuff works. We're going to break now for a brief word from a few of our friends and associates. I'll be back in about a minute. Don't go away. Freestyle Martial Arts, located at Jones and Russell here in Las Vegas. You can reach them at 702-551-9009. That's 702-551-9009. CCS Gunsmithing. Chris Eifelt, the man who does all the NRA help, he's at 2216 South Rainbow Boulevard near Sahara. He can be reached at 702-365-1732. Once again, 702-365-1732. Jerry Creed, a trust attorney. If you have a firearms trust or need one, this is your guy. You can reach Jerry at 702-806-7777. That is 702-806-7777. CCW Maggie is found all over the internet. You can reach her by phone at 702-375-5900. That's 702-375-5900. All sorts of firearms training, ladies only classes. She is the best of the best. Call CCW Maggie. And we are back. Story number 4 comes from WKMG News 6, Orlando. Reports February 17, 2021 in Orlando, Florida. Police say it happened before 9:30 in the morning at a business named Staff Zone on Old Winter Garden Road. Staff Zone is a day labor office and offers short-term employment. Orlando police officers were at the staffing business Tuesday morning after a man attacked 2 employees there with a machete. Officers report one of the employees took out a gun and shot the attacker. Records show a 31-year-old came into the business seemingly upset and carrying a machete. He argued with a woman and a man who worked there and then apparently attempted to stab the employees. Officers said as the 31-year-old was trying to lunge at the employee, one of the workers shot him. According to the Orlando police, after the shooting, the 31-year-old ran away on foot. Officers eventually caught him and took him into custody. He was taken to a nearby hospital for treatment of his gunshot wound. He is facing charges of attempted felony homicide, aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, burglary with a battery therein, and resisting an officer without violence. Officers said both the workers were also taken to the same hospital with lacerations, but are expected to be okay. Comments here: a business where firearms are available allows employees to defend themselves against a machete-wielding attacker. Businesses all across America are under attack because they often are softer targets than police stations, courts, and private homes. With mass demonstrations driven by political issues encouraged by both the left and the right, and COVID lockdowns making everybody a little crazy, having a defensive firearm is a real common sense gun policy. Common sense gun policy is to have a gun. Story number 5. CBS News 3 Philly reports February 21, 2021, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania's Kenningston neighborhood, a woman turned the tables on an intruder and shot him. It happened just before 3 early Sunday morning in the 3100 block of Arbor Street. Police say the suspect entered the house where 2 women were located. That's when police say one of the women told officers she shot the man once in the thigh. Police say the gun the woman used was legally registered. One neighbor who spoke with Eyewitness News says if it was his family, he would have done the same thing. The neighbor said, because, I'm quoting directly here, the neighbor said, because if he was getting into my house, I probably would have done the same thing if I had a gun. I'm just going to do things a lot safer, look out for myself. Make sure whoever comes gets a look at his face, see what's going on, probably scope him. No charges have been filed against the woman. Perhaps, comments here, I'm sorry. Perhaps the neighbor would be smart enough to actually get a firearm if he can legally do so and could defend himself and his family. There are lots of helpful alternatives like tasers, pepper spray, baseball bats, and so forth for those who cannot legally own a gun. At least find an escape route and practice using it in the dark. Having a plan actually works. We're going to break now for another short commercial bit from some more friends and associates. I'll be right back. Don't go away. Attorney Donald J. Green, a common guest of mine on Fired Up. He can be reached at 702-409-8239. He specializes in gun case litigation. He is your man, Don Green, 702-409-8239. And Battlefield Vegas, my new kind of home for this show. They're on Circus Drive, directly behind the Circus Hotel and Casino. You can find them there with CCW classes and an amazing place for gun rentals, everything you could possibly imagine. Check out, if you're in town as a tourist, check out battlefieldvegas.com. And we're back. Story number 6 here is a local blog, basically a news reporting company in Iowa, reported this. The Perry News reports February 19, 2021, in Wapello County, Iowa, A statement issued Friday morning by the Wapello County Sheriff's Office said their agency received a call about 9:15 in the evening by a caller who explained that a male subject was attempting to gain entry into his residence between Otama and the agency on 97th Avenue. Hopefully that means something to somebody. The preliminary investigation indicates the intruder did forcibly enter the home and was shot by the homeowner inside the residence. The intruder was pronounced dead after being flown by air ambulance to the University of Iowa hospitals and clinics. The investigation is ongoing, and the identity of the deceased male is being withheld pending notification of his next of kin. The Wapello County Sheriff's Office was assisted by the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation, Iowa State Patrol, Wapello County Emergency Management, and Iowa Department of Transportation Motor Vehicles Enforcement. Whew. The Perry News website reminds its readers a criminal charge is merely an accusation and the defendants are innocent until and unless proven guilty. Comments on this. Perry News seems a bit reluctant to publish information about a clearly valid use of self-defense. Sometimes it's difficult for a liberal blog to publish a story that goes against their beliefs. It's a credit to them that they chose to publish anyway. As much as I dislike poorly made decisions in self-defense incidents, I use them to educate my viewers about what to do. That is usually to speak to a criminal defense attorney before making statements, and what not to do is lie to investigators. But I'm taking a second here to tell you, even though that's a liberal blog, I'm glad to see that they published the thing anyway. That shows they're at least trying to do the right thing. Story number 7. Fox News journalists Michael Ruiz and Bree Stimmen, reports February 20, 2021, in Metlari, Louisiana, on Saturday, Jefferson Parish deputies responded to an incident at the Jefferson Gun Outlet, a gun store and range just down the road from the Louis Armstrong New Orleans International Airport. Arriving deputies located several victims suffering from gunshot wounds. 3 individuals were pronounced dead at the scene, and 2 more were transported to a local hospital for treatment. The sheriff's statement said, "At this time, it appears a subject shot 2 victims inside the location. The shooter was then engaged and shot outside the location by multiple other individuals." Employees at the Jefferson Gun Outlet typically carry firearms at the facility, but it was not immediately clear whether the Good Samaritans were customers, outlet employees, or other individuals. The New Orleans office of the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Firearms and Explosives said it was sending special agents to assist local deputies with the investigation. Authorities have not publicly identified anyone involved in the Saturday shooting. Various customers and class students gave statements to the press, including that one instructor stayed with the students while 2 others left the room and headed toward the sound of gunfire. A neighboring Taco Bell eatery was also evacuated. Imagine that, they shut down Taco Bell? Wow. Comments. This sounds a lot like a recent shooting here in Las Vegas. One instructor stayed inside with customers while the others attempted to detain and neutralize the criminal actor. With little information at the time of the publication, attempting to murder anyone inside a firearms business is pretty clearly a foolish action. I expect mental or emotional issues were at least a partial cause. As more information is available, I will certainly try to follow up on this incident for listeners. And our 8th story, the end of the day. We're running out of time, so if you're missing on the radio show or TV show where we are limited to our 30 minutes, you need to look on our website and get the rest of it. Here we go. Number 8, WBRZ, which is ABC TV2, reports February 24th, 2021 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office and the Baton Rouge Police Department were among those who responded to a reported shooting at the Armstrong Apartments on Burbank Avenue. Officers with the East Baton Rouge PD, East Baton Rouge, how can I say that, were initially dispatched to the area around 7:30 in the morning, as the incident was originally reported on Jennifer Jean Drive, which is in their jurisdiction. But after their initial investigation of the shooting revealed that the incident was also involved part of Burbank Drive that falls into East Baton Rouge Sheriff's jurisdiction, deputies with the Sheriff's Office were called to that scene. The 911 calls said a teenager was reportedly shot while trying to break into an apartment complex. According to the East Baton Rouge Sheriff's deputies, the incident appeared to be an attempted burglary that ended when the suspect was shot. They say the 16-year-old suspect was seen trying to break into a vehicle near Armstrong Apartments, but is unclear if he was armed. The injured teenager ran to nearby Jennifer Jean Drive, which is where he was located by officials. The wounded suspect was then taken to an area medical hospital for treatment. Baton Rouge PD officers added that the wounded burglar is a juvenile and that he was seriously hurt. The incident is currently being under investigation by both agencies. Comments here. A common reason for delays in law enforcement response is jurisdictional lines. The 911 caller is in one jurisdiction calling about a violent crime in another jurisdiction. Sometimes the criminal actor is on the line between both jurisdictions intentionally. The answer is everybody responds and both agencies work the case. Generally, there are interjurisdictional backup arrangements in place. On occasion, the laws are different. Here in Nevada, we have a huge mix of state, city, county, and township regulations. Lots of areas don't penalize firearms carry. Firearm carriers wander across a boundary line. They're unknowingly in violation of law, and the law, that is a firearm crime. The last thing we need is more jurisdictional firearm laws as proposed by a few gun rights activists. We desperately need constitutional carry here in Nevada. Constitutional carry is the key. I'll be back next Thursday on my website, firedupwithboberwin.com, the American Guns and Glory Network, and numerous other websites, television, and radio station. While watching any media, please click on subscribe so new shows can be sent to your phone or computer automatically each week. You can check out my recent shows at firedupwithboberwin.com. It contains several dozen episodes. My logo merchandise, hats, shirts, and books are available at Battlefield Vegas, just behind Circus Circus on the Las Vegas Strip. If you are ever in Las Vegas, Battlefield Vegas is a must-see attraction. You can shoot a minigun or any of hundreds of firearms, or even crush a car with an Abrams tank at their associated outdoor facility. Transportation is provided. Contact info@battlefieldvegas.com. Thank you so much for watching Fired Up. We'll be back next week with another edition. Please participate in our friends and sponsors. Everybody needs your help at the moment. Again, thanks for watching. See you next week.